Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed, there you go, go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final, you're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold, take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you to offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see, what we got, a tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here, you cleared land on 9, all the way to the white dot, go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Kennard, just come to the runway and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Kennard's going to have to go around. Kennard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. You do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the down ones. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow on the final. And as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to resequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Kennard?
Yeah, Kennard.
All right, Kennard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Kennard's got the jet in tight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, here on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around. Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that. After 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Three, two, one.
Hello.
Good evening, everybody out there. Thank you very much for joining us on this dark Thursday night. I guess it's dark Thursday night now. A whole load of stuff on tonight. And looking across the bottom of my screen, I can see there's kind of 3 different people we got to bring in at different times. So I'm getting my excuses in early for the various finger trouble that are bound to happen. But before we get going with that, and we spot the mistake, I'd like to thank Skydemon for sponsoring the live stream. If you're one of those people in the world who hasn't tried Skydemon, which is unlikely, go and download yourself a copy from the App Store or Google Play and give it a 30-day trial and see what you think. So here is this week's Skydemon tip, which I not only had I not forgotten this, but I didn't even know it in the first place, this one. So here you go.
Hi, I'm Hannah from Skydemon, and this is another top tip.
When you double tap a spot along your route, that point will be highlighted in the virtual radar at the bottom of the screen. You can also double tap in the virtual radar to see that point highlighted on the map.
For more information about using Skydemon, take a look at our user guide, which you can access from our website.
Yep, didn't know that one.
No.
Sweet and constructive, that one. So what have we got going on tonight? Well, tonight we have got Dr. Simon Keeling, who's live, who's going to tell us the weather, which must mean there's some good weather coming, because when there's some bad weather, Simon does recording and doesn't dare show his face. What have we got after that? We've got a whole bunch of news, including, for the first time, a little experiment, a news guest, Mike O'Donoghue, who's the chief executive of Gasco, is coming in for a quick chat during the news. Last week we spoke about Gasco, and someone was asking the question about what was happening with the safety evenings and how it was all going with Astral and stuff like that. And Mike heard about it, dropped me an email and said, come and explain. So we'll be talking to Mike. We got almost at the end of Rat Watch, but there's some important information about the Cop Out 26 Rat Watch that we need to know about coming up this weekend. Johnny will be interviewing Dave Linney from the Great War Display team. We've got Fantasy Hangar, where we're kind of, we'll get to Fantasy Hangar in a bit. And we got all sorts of other bits and pieces going on as well, undoubtedly. So on that basis, let's see if we can bring Simon in and see where he turns up randomly on the screen. Hang on a sec. Here you go, Simon.
Evening,
okay.
all.
Change the layout somehow.
Evening.
Why isn't that working? I don't know.
It worked perfectly earlier.
I can't remember why. I'll tell you what. Let's remove ourselves and leave it to Simon.
Oh, nearly there. Nearly there. Come on. We can do it. We can do it. Hey, there we go. There we go. I don't know whether you can see my my charts or not. There we go. Look at that. We have the technology. Superb. Okay, everybody. A bit of a mixed weekend ahead, but I do think there's some flying to be found. My suspicion is it's more local flying rather than any distances. So apologies in advance if you're going any further. This is how things look for Friday. Really, a write-off for Friday. I just put it on there because it's a nice chart. Low pressure centered over Scotland. We got ice bars tight together, so that means that it's going to be a windy old day. Bands of rain and blustery showers moving eastwards. Really just about everywhere is looking particularly unpleasant. Gusts of sort of 30-35 knots. If you've got aircraft outside, then anywhere in England, Wales, southern parts of Ireland, you might want to think about protecting them, because some gusts could get as high as 40 to 45 knots, particularly in the west, and especially in heavy showers. Only place that may get away with it is the far north of Scotland. There we may actually find some reasonable flying conditions with lighter winds. Now, Saturday, a weak front over the east on Saturday. This sort of weak occlusion you see here. Now, don't get hung up on occlusions and cold fronts and warm fronts. Basically, what this front means is that there is going to be some cloud around across central and eastern parts of the country. Very, very weak affair. I think basically we'll find bases lifting across eastern areas during the course of the day. Probably going to be about 1,500 to 2,500 feet. Visibility not that bad actually across eastern areas. 10 to 12 kilometres, a light northwesterly wind. Now, further west here, you notice we've got virtually no isobars. So quite a murky start to the day, I think, for many western areas. So there'll be some mist. There could be some local fog patches around. Visibility down at around 800 metres very early in the morning. But that will start to lift. And I think what we'll find is some gaps developing in the cloud, some reasonable local flying to be found in places. Typical bases getting up to around about 2,000 feet through the afternoon, although there will be one or two spots, as there are on these November days, that kind of stay shrouded in lower clouds. So I think probably places where that might happen, perhaps southwest Scotland, perhaps parts of the Midlands, and perhaps parts of central southern England. But I think for many of us, it looks like that cloud, as I say, will be lifting. Visibility should improve. But just be careful if you're thinking about flying any distances, because what you see on the forecast may not necessarily be what you'll get at the airfield when you arrive. Now, it's for Sunday, more mist and murk around on Sunday. High pressure still with us. Very light winds. Just can't blow the murk away anywhere. So kind of what we see is what we get in the morning. So reduced visibility, some mist, some fog patches for many parts, southern Scotland, for all of England, for all of Wales as well. And eastern areas by then start to pick up more of an easterly flow. And you can see here on the cloud ceiling forecast. So this is the forecast cloud height above ground level. The green colours here indicating bases of about 2,000 feet. The yellow and the oranges are more 500 to 1,000 feet above ground level. So you can see here really sort of eastern, central, southern areas that see that lower cloud. But out west, southwest England, parts of Wales, parts of northwest England, parts of Scotland, probably seeing some higher bases. But Sunday, definitely the more tricky day. I think the day of the weekend looks as if it's probably going to be Saturday. Probably give it around a 4 or 5 out of 10. If you get it, you're going to enjoy it through the day. But if you're stuck in the murk, I think it sticks with you for much of the day. Now, if you want to learn more about mist and fog and forecasting the developments of it, as well as being able to spot weather windows yourself and improve your forecasting techniques and just be better at understanding weather and flying more safely, then get yourself along to Aviation Weather School. My next part one has 2 places available on it, and it's going to run on the consecutive Saturday mornings of the 27th of November and the 4th of December from 09:30 to 12:30 hours. Presented live online by me. And if you'd like one of those places, then go to weatherschool.co.uk and you can book your place now. They're always great fun. So whatever you're doing, have a fantastic weekend. Like I say, Saturday, the pick of the days, but just watch those forecasts very, very carefully this weekend. Don't get caught out. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week. Bye all.
Almost.
There we go. Oh, Ian, it's like Ian forgot nearly.
No, I didn't. I didn't forget. There was just too much going on, and this stupid thing is activated by bloody touchpad mouse, and just a bit. It was all. I need to make a longer stinger with little sort of soft music. So you just give me a few more seconds to get it sorted.
Like lift music.
Lift music. Yeah, exactly. Please just occupy yourselves for a few minutes while I get on with it. Yeah. Right. I think on that case, I think 2 things. I think I'm going to go flying on Saturday.
Yeah.
I've got some headsets to test for the next issue, so that'll be useful. And let's move to the news in that case. So, Ed, you're up first with the news.
I'm up first. An interesting one. So a company called Scale Wings in Germany has started deliveries of their Mustang kit. Do we have a photo? There we go. They've been working on this for many years. We've seen it at the Friedrichshafen show a few times in various iterations, but it's now all done and they're delivering these kits. It's claimed to be the world's most accurate P51 Mustang replica at 70% scale. I've seen it in the flesh, and it is absolutely stunning. That it's all composite, but they've made it so that all the molded detail it mimics something like 100,000 details of the actual P51 airframe, all worked into the carbon surfaces of the kit parts, claiming what they say is a perfect reincarnation of a legendary icon. The standard kit includes all the carbon fiber parts, control elements, seats, and electrically driven retractable undercarriage. And the kit price on that is 119,000 euros. All you have to do to add to that is a Rotax 915 IS and some Garmin avionics. So it's going to be quite a punchy price by the time you're there. But what a fantastic piece of kit to have. So not yet LAA approved. So you may want to talk to your local kit plane authorizer before you purchase.
That's going to be a €200,000 airplane, isn't it?
I know, but how cool is that? It actually looks really, really good.
It's hard to find fault with it when you're looking at the airframe from different angles, and other than the prop, I think there's very little to complain about.
And
really.
it's unless you buy one of the Denny Thunder Mustangs, which is a much bigger proposition, or the all metal Stewart S51, neither of which you can get anymore. I think this is probably the best Mustang replica out there.
Yeah. It looks. It'd be interesting to see what it's. Yeah, no, it's like. Unfortunately, at 200,000, there's not one of those in my future.
Paul Cadell says, "I'm 70% scale, so it's full size for me. Lovely."
Get your checkbook out now, Mr. Cadell. Excellent. Right.
Catkin says, "What does it sound like? The sound is important. We have a video. I'll stick the link in the comments. If you watch it, you will hear it fly past. And it's obviously not a Merlin, but it sounds cool. So,
yeah, you can have one that sounds just like a Merlin by having a Merlin in a full size one. It just costs you more than 200,000.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Let's get back onto this green agenda that everyone's talking about. Dave.
Well, in the week of COP26, there's been an announcement from the Isles of Scilly Steamship Group, who don't use steamships anymore, but they operate the air link between Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly. And anyway, they want to turn an islander, a Norman islander, into using a hydrogen fuel cell. They were originally thought about making it battery operated, but then they worked out that the range and the load just wouldn't work. So they've gone to the hydrogen fuel cell. That means they'll be carrying a tank with hydrogen in it, which will be used to create electricity and drive the motors. They're working with Cranfield Aerospace Solutions and Britten Norman themselves. They hope to have this up fairly soon. They're talking about in the next 5 years anyway, so which is not a great timescale to have all this built and certified. They reckon that it will not only give them greater flexibility, higher passenger load, and improvements to the bottom line, there'll be a potential 50% reduction in powertrain maintenance cost and another 40 to 50% reduction in variable costs. I guess that's not leaving 10% of costs. That must be some accountant doing the stats there.
Yeah, and it'll give them more passenger load. What? It'll add more seats to an islander?
Well, I think possibly it means that they're not having to carry so much fuel, and so therefore the payload's bigger.
Okay. Two things. One, that doesn't look like an islander. That looks like a Christmas decoration that you can hang on your tree.
And point number two,
the fuel
number
tank.
two, at least inside, if they can't make an electric airplane quieter than an islander inside, that'll be a surprise. So it should be much quieter inside and outside as well. I like the way the batteries won't work because of the range. It's the freaking Scilly Isles, for God's sake. It's from southwest England. It's not that far.
28 miles.
Oh, there you go.
That's a long way.
Yeah.
Be careful with that range. Anyway, so there you go.
What's next?
Interesting. Next up is me. I don't have an illustration for this, but I have a clipboard. I don't know if you remember, people out there, but a while ago, the CA did 3 different virtual voyages, which were kind of them sort of live streaming of a day. And I kind of hosted the first Q&A session, but thanks to the fact that a bunch of people a bunch of people spoke quite a lot during their presentations. We didn't get time for very many questions at the end, and the CA promised to answer all the questions and send me the replies, which should have arrived on 24th of October, but somehow they got lost in the email or whatever. Anyway, that arrived recently. So I've got the answers here. I'm not going to read all of it because it'll just take forever, but a few highlights for you. First question, my first question really was just what was going on with licensing at the Civil Aviation Authority, blah, 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 blah. And they went, waffle, 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 waffle. We're looking at it, waffle. But they did say we've seen that approximately 50% of applications are put on hold. We would also ask that those GA pilots submitting applications can make sure that they are submitting complete applications. So there you go. When you sent them in, you just didn't realize you had to send them in complete, did you? Naughty people. Send them in complete. It'll make it easier. Yeah, I know. Real insight there. Will the CEA be implementing the basic instrument rating? It's part of the licensing review, they say, and there are no plans to extend the IRR to Class A. Another question. Has the CEA started on making... Sorry, excuse the English here. It's kind of like... It's been transcribed from a kind of voice thing, so it's not perfect. Has the CA started on making bilateral arrangements with the EASA states to allow mutual operation of microlights and other non-EASA types? And their reply is, bilateral agreements are made by HM government, not the CA, which is true. So let's talk to the HM government. Next question. What progress has the CA made in its negotiations with the EASA to restore privileges to UK LAPL holders to fly G-Reg aircraft overseas? Bilateral agreements are made by HM government and not the CA. So you'll need to send your emails to Grant Shapps for that. Then a question close to my heart. Will the CA change its... In fact, I knew it wasn't the CA on this one, so clue. Will the CA change its position regarding FAA licenses and the transfer of FAA instrument ratings? And it says, and their answer to that is, the CAA acts within legislation set by Her Majesty's government. So if you didn't know, and you might not, the decision on the FAA stuff wasn't actually CA, that was Department for Transport. And I did actually mention it to Grant Shapps and a few other people, and the answer you get back from those is waffle, 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 waffle. So what about the agreement to reinstate operation of formerly EASA permit to fly, now CA permit to fly aircraft in EASA land? Bilateral agreements are made by the HM government, not by the CA. Okay, that's a surprise.
This is a bit like
long-term. Sorry,
this is a bit like these American court films where it goes, I'm going to refuse to answer the question, and they use that phrase where it's like, I plead the fifth. I
plead the fifth. Well, another question. What's the CA's long-term plan for GA conspicuity? Then there's like 3 paragraphs of waffle, 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 and then we anticipate a mature draft of our plans by Q1 of 2022. We know they've got a working group together to talk a bit more. Why do RMP approaches... sorry, here was a question. Why do the RMP approaches to airfields without full air traffic have so many restrictions that they effectively make them unavailable to GA pilots? Will anything be done to speed up the rollout of RMP approaches? That is just pure waffle, times 1,000, more waffle. And again, that was put up with Grant Shapps, and there was an action point out of that to hopefully get that sorted out, because frankly, the system we've got at the moment is just embarrassingly ridiculous. It's ridiculous in a ridiculous thing. That was followed up, as we were on satellites, I'm getting to the end, don't worry, by a question about EGNOS. You know, we lost access to EGNOS, so LPV approach is no longer available. The question is, what's the likelihood of the UK resubscribing to EGNOS so we get LPV approaches back? And the reply from the CEA, the UK government has determined that we will not resubscribe to EGNOS, but is rather looking at other nationally driven options. So there you go. Got a video for that.
Don't panic! Don't panic! Don't panic!
A couple of other questions I'm going to miss out because they're boring. Will the CA admit that Selma is a complete mess, and when will it be fixed? Dr. Mike Trudgell, Chief Medical Officer, addresses issues surrounding Selma within his presentation. Okay. Why can't the self-declaration process not be simpler and more straightforward? Blah, blah, blah. It just can't be. We currently have, and then there's a whole load of really long questions that actually came from, I won't tell you who they came from because it was kind of anonymous, but they're very technical licensing questions.
There we go.
And the answer is,
you can. I think full details of this are in the news story online at Flyer, and we put a link in the comments if you want to go and read the whole thing.
Yeah. You're trying to hurry me up there, Ed. I haven't got much to go. So bear with me.
Only a few more pages.
Will the CA automatically and immediately incorporate the latest additions to the CS stand for G-registered aircraft? No. Was the answer to that one? Well, it was a longer answer, but effectively no. And then the last question is, why can't Part ML, that's Part M Light, be more flexible, blah, blah, blah. And then the first paragraph goes all on about bloody licensing. So they even answered the wrong question. So as you say, Ed, you can go and read the whole thing on the website. But effectively, I may have exaggerated with the waffle. You go and read it and tell me let us know what you think. Was it waffle or were they being really sharp. Over to you. Right, that's the end of me. Johnny, it's time for you to have a chat to introduce Mike.
Yeah, let's get Mike in. Right, here we go.
Hello, Mike.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Mike. Thanks for joining us. Now,
great fun.
first
It's
of all,
the first chat show I've ever been on. It's my debut.
Good.
I'm trying to work this out. There you go.
You're on the best one.
There you go. Johnny's behind our poppy. I'm just going to remove the poppy temporarily.
There we go.
Good.
The poppy will be back.
Right, Mike. Thank you. Just briefly talk to us about what Gasco's up to at the moment and what your plans are for the coming months.
Of course. Well, I followed really this up from last week, where people were asking whether they're going to be physical safety evenings. Now, I don't quite know how to describe them. I'm calling them physical safety evenings. These are the sort that you would, flying club may be organised, and people would come along and go to that. Sorry about the barking in the background if you can hear that. We're having a takeaway tonight, and I think it might have arrived. But, back onto the subject. We know how popular these are, and a lot of clubs make it a particular start to their evening, their season. You know, they have a safety event, gets everybody in. It's a nice social event, and also gives people a chance to think about safety before flying. So quite important. Now, I think the genesis of this is that the CAA's safety promotion contract with Astral is going to be online. They're planning to do 4 themed sections a year, every quarter. They're going to do loss of safe. Well, they've done loss of safe separation. They've got loss of control done, and they're moving on to inadvertent IMC and control flight into terrain next, and then human factors, 1 a quarter, and their webinars. And there's a lot of resource that you can look at on the Astral Consulting site. In fact, there's a workshop next Wednesday on the 17th. It's not my job to advertise it, but I think it's probably worth looking at. It's one on inadvertent IMC. Now, we don't want to duplicate that, but we did find that in the webinars we did last year, they were really very popular. I mean, we probably got about 9,000 people came to all of them. So we will continue to do webinars, but don't want to find myself in safety competition with Astral or anything, or the CAA. Would like to complement and reinforce what they do, but also perhaps fill in some gaps. And the big gap is the physical safety evening. So on that, for instance, I'm just about to publish. We haven't done it yet. We've got 4 booked, for instance, at Rochester, Cambridge, White Waltham, and Goodwood. And in course of confirmation, another 15 from Seething, Headcorn, Andrewsfield, Oxford, Shobden, Eshop, Manchester, Barton, Sherburn, Gamston, Pentridge, a few in Scotland, and we will also do some in Northern Ireland and Ireland with our sister organisation, GASCI. These will be popular, I think, and we can get a good turnout. Now, we're not funded by the CAA any longer for these, so obviously I won't be able to just do them. We would always try and do them, even if it was for 10 people. Might just have to be a little bit more conservative about that, so that we can, our money for expenses, travel expenses and things, will be stretched. But we hope to do a few more than that. I hope to do at least 20 physical ones. What we're then going to do is do an online version of it, and which we can probably put that on in a safety evening for those that couldn't get, or it's difficult. For instance, we do one at Dundee regularly, and I got an email from somebody last year that said, look, I would love to have come, but I've never been able to get, because actually I finish work quite late. It's 2 hours to get to Dundee and 2 hours back, and I start work early. So this webinar that you did was fabulous for me. So I thought we could perhaps do what we did last COVID season, as it were, and do some online repeats, but make it clear to people they are repeats, so that if you've seen one, you don't go again unless you particularly want to see it again. Clearly, there will probably be a few different people and different questions asked en route, so they will vary a little bit. So I'm going to complement the physical safety evenings with webinars. I'm going to try and our theme is we've got 3 big messages, which we've had for a bit, which is plan your flight, remember you're a human, and use threat and error management. So 3 nice, clear messages. The planning your flight, because quite obvious when we study accident reports and occurrence reports, a little bit more planning would have saved the day very often. I'm sure most of the audience and everybody can relate to that. Remember, you're a human. Most accidents have human factors. In fact, I think all have human factors as somewhere in the root causes. So we want to give a few tips on that too. And then we will use threat and error management and try and give some practical examples. I don't want to make it seem a black art or something you have to do, you know, on copious reams of paper. I mean, it can be as simple as just sitting down before you go flying and just saying, what's going to get me today? And really just thinking about it. Something nice and simple. It might just be that one thing that did it and kept you safe. So that's our strap lines. We will do them using the evening itself will consist of using human factors, using TEM. We'll illustrate it with videos, diagrams, and get speakers in to do that. Preventing loss of control. We will go over loss of control again. I know the CAA is doing it, but loss of control is the primary cause of fatal accidents and has been actually since 1909 or maybe arguably 1908. So it does bear repetition. We'll then do avoiding mid-air collision because it is quite topical. One little anecdote I could give you, although I've got the evidence for it. We did 4 seminars at recent air shows, at the private flyer shows at Church Fenton and Wickham and the LAA Rally. And we asked people using an audience polling tool, we put some list of things up on the board and said, what do you think you're most at risk from? Now, given that they might have got, a bit of a mindset, having just flown into a rally or an air show, and therefore thinking ever of the aircraft, the percentage was really high, on the bar chart for mid-air collision. And actually, statistically, that is probably not what's going to get you. It's loss of control. But I suspect people are very wary of mid-air collision, rightly so, but because they feel it's probably not fully in their control. So trying to bring it back a bit into people's control and what you can do about it will be a focus. And obviously, for planning.
What's the best way? So if you're putting events on, physical events throughout the country, what is the website the best way for people to find out where their nearest one's going to be?
It is. Now I've got a big square on my notes here. Our website needs to be improved a bit, and it should be within the next couple of weeks. And it will have our whole offering of events on it. And we are on Facebook, and we will use that as well. We Twitter our events as well. And, we use, mediums like Flyer, always helpful to promote it. The Royal Aero Club gets all of this out. And we need to get that out to people. It's no use having a good offering if nobody knows about it. I wanted to say that on our webinars, we will, I may have bitten off more than we can chew here, but we're going to try to do the online version of a safety evening. So if you can't physically get there or you're worried about COVID, for instance, we've done 2 so far this season. One was a bit of an experimental one to a smaller audience in Edinburgh. And another one, which we were expecting a larger turnout, was at Exeter. Only 18 people came along. It was well advertised, and normally that event would produce about 60 people. And I wonder if people are just still a little bit worried about getting out and about. So that's where the webinar, version will be useful. But what I've also come up with is safety insight webinar. Yeah,
Mike,
am I running out of time?
We've already run out of time about 4 minutes ago, but just
okay.
Do the important bits because we've got a whole bunch of stuff that we need to fit in here. And then we'll get you back for some more safety stuff at some point in the future.
Very, very quickly then, we will do safety insight webinars looking at a specific category like gliding, microlights, 3-axis, microlights, flex wing, paragliding and hang gliding, helicopters, ballooning, and maybe some others where we'll just concentrate on the particular issues and occurrences and safety tips for those types. We've also got a program of seminars. We've got a loss of control seminar with Birmingham University, probably the 6th and 7th of April. I'll run another ditching and sea survival one with the RNLI in April. We'll do continental weather with the Royal Met Society and a weather decision making with the Met Office at the end of the year. So it's quite a big brochure for us. And we do have a bit of a problem with funding, as you might imagine. But we're up for it, and we thank all our supporters. So we'll keep doing it. And I'm sorry if I've gone on a bit longer. But,
that's okay.
No,
that's
thanks
okay.
for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, and we'll talk next week, and then we can sort out some online safety stuff for some upcoming plans.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Yeah, right. Over
Good
to
stuff.
you next.
The link to Gasco is in the comments. So
there you go. We've even managed to do that. Let me just put the poppy back. There you go.
Well done.
Look at that.
Right. Okay.
Armstrong Isaac Scholarship applications reminder. The Light Aircraft Association have 5 £1,500 bursaries available to post-solo student pilots who are under 30 years of age. The 2021 Armstrong Isaac bursary scheme takes applications up until the end of 31st of December this year. You need to be under 30 years of age, have completed a minimum 2 hours of solo training, and have the necessary medical and ground qualifications to continue. But there's 5 lots of £1,500 available for your training. And LAA is saying, don't forget to apply. And if you know someone who needs a bit of a boost for their flight training, point them in the direction. I've got a link to their application form. I'm going to stick it in the comments.
Thank you very much. So, yep, free money. Don't forget to apply. Just a quick one from me coming up. The Aviators Ball takes place not this weekend, next weekend. But the important thing about the Aviators Ball is that the live auction is live already. I screenshotted this earlier today. It's already raised £8,268. But you can go, just Google Aviators Ball live auction, go a whole load of prizes you can bid on, a whole load of... anyway, amongst them all is the most interesting one of all of them, clearly, which is bidding to become a guest for the whole, or guest presenter for a whole live stream. So you too can come and mess up just like me. So come on, put your hands in your pocket. We'll treat you like... we'll treat you well. There you go. How about that? We'll treat you well, and we'll even buy you a virtual drink because it's all virtual. So put your hands in the pocket and bid for that. That would be great. What have we got next? Dave, you're talking about France coming back bigger.
Yes, this is another quick one. The French General Aviation Show, which is held in June, the 9th to 11th of June next year, at Lyon-Bron Airport, which is France's second largest GA airport. Anyway, it's back, and it's going to be twice the size, apparently. It's also going to have a bigger area to showcase green aviation, including electric, hydrogen, hybrid propulsion, and VTOL, vertical takeoff and landing concepts. That's it, really. That's all there's to say. It's
that's the second biggest in France. What's the biggest then?
I don't know.
Is it the RSA flying, maybe?
Is it the biggest flying or the biggest GA airfield?
Second largest GA airport. Possibly Gap Tallard is the biggest one in terms of movements.
I don't know. Yeah. Well, who knows? Well, it might even be Lonia if it was movement. Anyway,
if
you know,
Johnny, where's Zara?
Russia.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
Okay. She's in a place called Ayan, Ayan. And yeah, she's off next to Khabarovsk and then Vladivostok. So yeah, she's still in Russia.
She is. I saw a Facebook post this week from Travis Ludlow saying, if that had been me, I would have put the aeroplane in the hangar and come home. So he said kudos to Zara and wished her well.
I would as well.
Yeah.
Dave, how was Pilot Careers Live at the weekend?
Well, talking of Travis, he was at Pilot Careers Live at the weekend, and we did a quick interview with him. Pilot Careers Live was just fabulous. It's the first live event, physical event, that we've had for 18 months. And when 5 to 9, we're all standing around at our little studio stand, wondering if this is going to work. And the doors came open, and huge numbers of people flooded in. Well, I say huge. We had a bit of a few restrictions because of COVID, but immediately the doors opened. There was suddenly a buzz around the room, and lots of people talking to the exhibitors, who are mostly approved training organisations, and it was great. It was really good. It's good to see that there are so many young people out there still considering a career in aviation. It was just a fab event.
Yep. Thank you very much. Just briefly at the end of this, back in January, tragically, we lost General Aviation lost Rob Wildeboer, who was the manager down at Goodwood. Absolute, unbelievably top, friendly, inspirational, always happy, always exuding energy kind of guy. I still can't believe it happened, to be honest with you. Nothing to do with aviation, but anyway. So Goodwood have produced a calendar. There's Rob Wildeboer Flying Scholarship, which will take place at Goodwood, and Goodwood have produced a calendar. Oops, there it is. Which you can buy for £10. You only need to, but unfortunately, you need to go and pick it up from Goodwood. So you can phone them up and buy it. If I were you, even if you're not going to Goodwood, just phone them up, give them 10 quid for the scholarship. There's a crowdfunded thing down there. We might even try and organise a fly in there next year. They don't know that yet, by the way. And so you can pick up your calendars then. I know it'll be too late, but it's not really about a calendar. It's about supporting this. Rob did so much for General Aviation. It's now our turn to go and do something back and help fund this Goodwood Rob Wildeboer scholarship in his name. Please do that if you can. Thank you very much. Just a quick one on the Cop Out 26 wrap. Everyone's been telling us it's been extended effectively over this weekend, I believe. So if you thought you were going to be free of it and you go flying, check your no terms, because you probably can't. There you go.
It's extended 24 hours until 23:59 on Sunday.
Yep. So that's a bit of a bummer for anyone who's going to be flying up there this weekend. So there you go. Right. Dave has been waiting patiently. I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get Dave in. There you go. And then do this. And then do this.
There we go.
There you go. Hello.
Brill. Thanks for joining us, Dave. How are you?
Fine, thanks. Had a cold last week, but recovering.
Excellent. Now, so you're obviously a member of the Great Wall Display team. So can you just tell us briefly what your role in the team is?
Well, for the last, I suppose about the last 10 years, I've been the airborne lead. But I joined the team in 08. And because I had a particularly good radio, better than everyone else's, I ended up leading from about 09, 010. And of course, once you've got a job like that, no one else wants to take it over. So I'm still there.
Brilliant. So just going back to the start of the team, why was it set up in the first place, and kind of what's your aim?
It was set up by Doug Gregory, who was an ex Second World War mosquito pilot, DFC, bit of a star, and his friend Des Biggs. They both built replica SE5s like mine in mid-80s. And in 1988, they started a little team called the Wombats. That soon got changed to the Great War team. And slowly, other people joined the team with other replicas for the triplanes and so on. And it just progressed from there. When I joined in 08, we were operating with up to 9 aeroplanes. But of course, because we're sort of scattered across the country, you can't always guarantee getting everyone to the display venue because of weather and all the other things which plague us. But yeah, we're basically a 9 aircraft team, but not all organisers want all 9. So often we're a 5, 6 or 7. It's a variable feast, and we design our schedule so that, you know, if you lose an airplane here or there, you can still fly pretty much the same show.
Yeah, and with flying those different aircraft types, are there many challenges in terms of speeds when you're transiting to and from somewhere and when you're actually displaying?
Oh yeah, my SE cruises at 60 knots, so most of the transits are quite long because I'm down in depths of Somerset. It's often a couple of hours to get to somewhere, you know, Duxford or Shuttleworth or Rencombe or wherever we happen to be displaying. or operating from. And of course, the other aspect of that is that the weather in Somerset might be totally different to the weather in Norfolk, where Pete Bond comes from with his Fokker triplane. So it's always a bit of a lottery, and the most difficult part of the whole business is the transits, to be honest. Once we all get together and fly the display, that's probably the more straightforward part of our life.
Brilliant. And you've got quite a big, or over the years, and currently you've got quite a decent group of pilots. One of them was, maybe still is, Bruce Dickinson. Is he still part of the team?
Yeah, Bruce bought John Day's Fokker triplane, and he actually flew with us for about a season. But with all his other commitments, it doesn't really work too well. So he lets us use the airplane, and it's usually flown by for a long time. It's flown by Alex Truman, and currently it's Will Greenwood flies it most of the time.
Right. And is that this one?
No,
no,
that's.
I only say that because that's Will Greenwood stood there.
Yeah, well, he flies that as well. That's the sort of Junkers CL1 lookalike. It's based on a Flybaby, and it's the least accurate, obviously, of all the airplanes we fly in the team. But it serves a purpose and adds to the numbers, and it's actually a lovely little airplane to fly, I gather. So we did have two of them. We're down to one now. But yeah, nice little airplane. Yeah.
And do you have a name? Do you have a name for the chap in the back there on the machine gun?
Yeah, generally Fritz. He's a thoroughly nice guy. He doesn't drink beer. He doesn't fart. He's really quite a gentleman.
Brilliant. So can people see you over the winter at all, or are we going to have to wait until next spring when you start flying again?
No, it'll be next spring. We'll we usually have a work-up practice weekend or two around April time. We always used to go to Middle Wallop. Then we went to Sywell. Currently, we're doing our work-ups up at Duxford, which is a great place to operate from, but a bloody long way from South Somerset. Sorry, excuse my French.
That's all right. But in terms of flying the airplanes, do you get much of an appreciation for how basic they are and how difficult it must have been actually using them as a weapon?
Yes, they are. I'm lucky with the SE5. It's a nice handling airplane. The others can be a bit quirky. Let's start with triplane particularly, but all the triplanes are a little bit difficult. But yeah, they are difficult. It's damn cold. Even in the summer, you can freeze. On a longish transit, it's fine for a display. You're looking at about 15 minutes. Cope with that even on a cold day. And admittedly, most of our displays are in the sort of height of the season. But if you have a long transit, even in the summer, you can get frozen to death. It's horrible. And of course, weather is. Wind, low cloud, rain are a big factor operating little airplanes like this. I remember we went up to, after a Shoreham display, went up to Oxford to do a little show there. And the wind at Shoreham was flat calm. By the time we got to Oxford, it was blowing 25 knots. We did the show, and then I took off to come back to Somerset. As I went around the corner at about Abingdon, my ground speed suddenly was down to about 35 knots. I thought, Christ, I'm not going to make Somerset at this rate. But by the time I got back to Pitney, where I was operating from, the wind was calm again. So, it's with just 60 knot cruise, you haven't got an awful lot to play with, to be honest.
What range have you got in your airplane?
Tanks dry in my little SC is about 3.25 hours, but my bladder can't manage that. So typically 2.5 hours is a practical maximum. And you're ready to get out after that.
Yeah. Is this yours at all, or is this one of the
Yes, yeah, that's my little whizzer.
Yeah.
I bought it in '99. It was the first one actually built in the UK by Mike Beach in 1978. So it's probably the oldest UK SE replica. Great little machine though. I love it to bits.
Yeah. Have you had much more kind of interest from air shows and other events since this, like the centenary of the end of the First World War?
Yeah, I mean that was the highlight, wasn't it? I think we did something like 55 events that year. Obviously, some were just a few fly pasts, but I think I flew 34 displays, and I couldn't have told you, 1 week where we were the previous week. So that was busy. Since then, it's tapered off a bit, and then of course this COVID thing came and knocked everything on the head, which was absolute pain in the backside. But nothing we can do about that. Everyone's in the same boat.
Yeah, and are you on the lookout for new members at all?
What we've really found that we need now is people in the team who actually own their own aeroplane. It just means that you're generally more available. You've got to commit to something like this. If you've got a team of this size, you've got to commit and be available whenever you need it. So it's much easier if you're using people that actually own their airplanes, to be honest.
Can I ask you just a couple of questions about your airplane? If it cruises at 60 knots, what does it land at? What does it climb? Does it do everything at 60 knots, or does it?
Yeah, pretty much. Glides at 60 knots, climbs at 60 knots. Touchdown's about 45, I suppose, by the time you're touching. 40, 45. Stalls at about 38.
What's the engine in it?
It's a flat four C90.
Okay.
Continental. Yeah,
And
good reliable little dog.
Yeah, the displays, Dave, and the Great Wall Display Team are really famous for having lots of aeroplanes in the sky. I think you do it in various different layers, don't you?
Yeah, we have height sanctuaries. From the ground, it didn't look too obvious, hopefully, but you have the separate sanctuaries, but we swap between higher and lower and move it up and down. The whole idea is to make it look like total chaos from the ground. I think we probably achieve that sometimes. You're sort of simulating the situation of for the crowd of someone sitting in a frontline trench. I don't know whether you remember the beginning of the Blue Max. There's a German chappie sitting in his trench watching the battle going on just over his head at a few thousand feet. That's the sort of scenario we're trying to show.
Yeah.
But obviously, because it's all rather false, you've got to schedule it for safety. So you have the separation criteria and so on and so forth.
Yeah, well, it's very clever though. I've seen it, and that you really don't realise that you're doing it at different levels, and it just fills the sky with little aeroplanes. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's what we try to do, and of course, if you can use plenty of smoke as well. Now these days we have the Pyro team, who are absolutely brilliant bunch of guys, and they put up some really good sort of background to us with flak and ground explosions, and it all adds lots of smoke.
Yeah, someone says, Catkin says, it looks fabulous where there's 8 octas of biplanes.
How deep are your altitude sanctuaries? Or height sanctuaries?
A couple 100 feet, 200 feet or so. We're basically we're sort of 50 to 300. 400 to 600, 700 to 900 as a basic set. Of course, it all gets screwed around if you go to somewhere like Farnborough and they say, "Oh, you've got to use a base of 200 feet," so everything gets changed, and it actually feels quite alien when you bump it up. We're going to have to be at 200 feet at Cheltenham tomorrow, and the higher you are, the more difficult it actually feels to fly the show.
I reckon if I keep plus or minus 200 feet, I reckon I'm flying pretty accurately. So
yeah.
So Amanda Sub says, any YouTube to the display? And I found one while we've been talking, and I'll see if I can find a couple of others. But there's lots and lots of video of the Great Wall Display team online, and it's worth checking out because the work they do is fantastic.
Do you publish a schedule of when you're doing practices at Duxford?
Yeah, usually something's put on the Facebook page or the website. This year we had quite a few people come along and watch. It obviously got around, but yeah, it's a nice airfield to operate from. Siwa was good because the public got access to that. Middle Wallop, you might get a few people in the Army Air Corps restaurant, but Duxford's a lovely place to be, and they're remarkably friendly to us. So. We really enjoy it.
Excellent.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I think we all encourage people to go and watch you next season.
Yeah. And one more thing while Mike is on. Mike, you're also part of the team that operates Middlezoy, aren't you?
Yes.
Sorry, Dave,
yeah.
Dave even.
Dave,
Sorry.
yeah.
I don't know where I ended with Mike.
That's right, Brian. Yeah, it was myself and Paul Charles and Paul's son Simon who started it off, and we started building the hangar there in I think about May 2018, and then we started our little Nissan hut the following year, and it's just a sort of work in progress at the moment. It's only small. We don't have too many aeroplanes, but we want to have as many old aeroplanes as possible. And the oldest one we've got at the moment is a 1939 Fairchild, Taylor Cross 1942. So, it's nice to keep the older airplanes going and to try and preserve a bit of heritage of what was really quite a famous old airfield. So our Nissan hut hopefully has got a sort of wartime feel to it when you come in.
And you had an amazing fly-in this year, didn't you?
Yeah, we had a little sort of vintage wings and wheels. Saturday was rubbish because the weather was awful, but Sunday was really good. And we had about 40 aeroplanes in total, and it all went very smoothly. Lots of vintage cars and motorbikes, and quite a decent turnout from the public. So yeah, we had a great day. It was really super. We hope to do something similar next year. It might not be called the same thing, but we're hopeful, so we'll see how we go.
Fantastic. Well, I put a link to Middlezoy Aerodrome on Facebook in the comments. So if you want to find out more about that, check it out there.
I've just checked on Skydemon, and it's only 39 nautical miles from where I'm based. So with
where are
a couple
you?
of GPSs, I should be able to find it.
If you can find Bridgewater, you can find our place.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, do. You're always welcome. Kettle's always on, so
result.
Nice to see you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, thank you, Dave.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Come and see us at Middlezoy. Better still, come and see us when we're flying next year.
Yeah, well, I think we'll do both.
Right. Look forward to that.
Fantastic. Great. Thank you very much.
It must be time for.
Say again.
Hang on a second.
It's time for our next segment, and I know Ian's looking for it.
Yeah, Ian's getting there. Don't worry.
Okay.
There you go.
Good. Yeah, Middlezoy, lovely place. I flew down there not this year, last year, and it is fantastic. And the Nissan hut set up and the hangar they've got. There's a Piston Provost there being rebuilt as well. It is brilliant. So I was
just going to have a look at the runways and see how long the runways are there.
There are two. They're not massive, but they're not tiny either. But
there's one that's 585 meters.
Yeah,
350 meters.
Yeah, and the approaches are good. So, and it's a nice place to go. Yeah. I can thoroughly recommend it. Anyway, it's time for Fantasy Hangar. And we thought, as transatlantic flights have resumed, then if we were to have a transatlantic airliner in our fancy hangar, then what would it be? So, and I
You're
think
first,
I'm first for once. So I have gone back in time, and I've gone for something that, when crossing the Atlantic, was done in style. And I have the magnificent Boeing Model 314 Clipper. How about this? So it's powered by 4 1,600 Wright Cyclone engines. It was created in response to a request from Pan Am. The Clippers were built for one-class luxury air travel, which was a bit of a necessity, given that all the transoceanic flights were really long duration, because you're only cruising at 160 miles an hour. Seats could be converted into 36 bunks for overnight accommodation. There was a lounge, a dining area, galleys for the chefs, and all the chefs were from 4-star hotels. There was separate dressing rooms, white coat stewards, and it was 5 and 6 course meals with silver service. At the fare at the time for the round trip from New York to Southampton was $675, which is equivalent to £9,000 today. So, yeah, the route, if you crossed the Atlantic, it was Southampton to Port Washington, New York, with intermediate stops at Foynes in Ireland, Beauwood in Newfoundland, and Shediac in New Brunswick. So, and the first trip was June 24th, 1939. So BOAC had 3 of them, which they operated 1941 to 1948. And Winston Churchill was the first head of government to make a transatlantic crossing in one. So only 12 were built, none exist today. There's 2 at the bottom of the ocean. All the rest got scrapped or written off, and a couple sank. So
you'd have to rebuild one of those for your fancy hangar then.
Yes, yeah. There was a while ago. There was a consortium that wanted 8 million. They were trying to raise £8 million to go and find one, and I think they had visions of possibly trying to raise it and at least restore it for a museum. But what a magnificent piece of machinery that is. So
absolutely. Well, I'm next, and to be honest, first of all, my first choice was actually an Airbus A380. I know, but technically they're just amazing machines. I interviewed many years ago a guy called Richard de Crespigny, who was the pilot on the Singapore, I think it was Qantas one that had an engine explode. He'd just written a book about the system, so not only did he have his sort of type rating knowledge, but a whole load of extra knowledge. And they are, anyway. No one's gonna vote for me with an Airbus A380. And then I thought, well, maybe a Focke-Wulf Condor 200, because that looks pretty funky. But it was so difficult finding a picture. And in the end, I realised that somebody needed to go for Queen of the Skies, the Boeing 747, available in many different iterations over the years. The recent ones all tend to be cargo ones. There you've got Bill Allen, president of Boeing, with Juan Trippe, who was the president of Pan Am. That was the original order. And funnily enough, I don't know how true this is, but legend said the order was signed with a handshake when the 2 of them were off on a fishing trip.
I believe that is true.
Maybe that was just Bill's way of getting more fishing trips sanctioned by the shareholders. I don't know. But so there you go. 747 is Queen of the Skies. That's kind of what you think about when you think of classic transatlantic flying. You ask me, Johnny.
Yeah. So where's the picture? I've gone for the gorgeous, drum roll, VC10.
We got one of those somewhere, but
that's been appearing in the comments, Johnny. I think you're on a winner.
Has it? Good. Yeah. Well, it's second only in speed to some other aeroplane that once existed. I was doing some reading online. Then, anecdotally, apparently the quickest one was ever flown properly was back from South Africa, stopped on the way, but it was flown at 0.95 because it was like a medevac flight. And apparently they just flew it flat out at 0.95 the whole way back. And it would guzzle fuel at that rate, obviously, but it looks good. Apparently it was decent inside because the engines are obviously mounted at the back. It was good for hot and high. Not that matters crossing the Atlantic, but still, you get there quicker.
Well, fair enough.
I know a couple of people who flew it in service, and they say it was quite fantastic.
Dave's muted.
You know, I've got this. I really have. Yeah. It has to be Concorde. Of course, it has to be Concorde. It's just, you know, why wouldn't you? Which one would you choose to fly across the Atlantic if the 4 aircraft are lying up there on the runway? Which one? You don't tell me you wouldn't choose Concorde. You would. I've never flown in Concorde, but I've been up to the one at Duxford, and wandered around it, and sat in the seats and pretended. But no, it's just brilliant. 0.95 you flew at, Johnny? We're talking Mach 2.04 here. It can do New York. The fastest trip was New York to London in 2 hours 52 minutes. 2 hours 52 minutes. I mean, you just would. You just would. And I just want to be in it when, you know, when they do a performance takeoff. Just blast it up. It'd just be fantastic. It'd be like flying in the back of a little fighter, I'm sure.
You spoke earlier about Pilot Careers Live.
Yeah, yes.
We used to hold Pilot Careers Live at a different hotel, the Renaissance Hotel on the A4, which was kind of right next to the runway car park. And when we first started doing it back in the early 90s, Concorde was still flying. And genuinely, I think there was a flight that left Heathrow at, I don't know, 11 o'clock or something like that. And people would just go outside, myself included, to watch the departure. And it, from a noise point of view, it was something else. I mean, genuinely, like the car park at the back of the Renaissance had car alarms going off. It was you could feel the noise. But surprisingly, even though by then it was still an old airplane, it still looked by far the most modern, sleekest, best airliner flying out of Heathrow compared to everything else. It was astoundingly beautiful.
Yeah.
And hugely impressive.
And when you get on board, you only have to walk down the aisle if you're tall like me doing this.
But that's how it should be on a proper aeroplane. You don't. You know,
No. I selected the proper aeroplane in choice number 1. You know, one of the stats I didn't give you on a typical flight nowadays. I think you have something like 4 square feet per passenger. In my Boeing Clipper, you had 26 square feet per passenger
for $9,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Ian, one for your choice. If you haven't read it, I'll put a link in the comments. There's a fantastic book. It's called 747 Creating the World's... I've lost it now. Anyway, it's Joe Sutter's book, and Joe was the guy in charge of the 747 program. And it's genuinely a really, really good book. So if you get a chance to go on Amazon and get to read that is worth it. I recommend that thoroughly.
What's it called again?
I put a link in the comments, but it's called Creating the World's First Jumbo Jet and Other Adventures from a Life in Aviation. And Joe was he was kind of one of the real characters in Boeing. I think he was the one that convinced people that doing the double bubble thing was definitely the way to go when they were all thinking of it being like a super wide aeroplane. So, but definitely worth it.
I should download that and read it. I just want to read out a couple of things here. Good friend of mine, Nigel Charles, sent in some stuff after having listened to the pre-live stream, which is available for club members only on a Wednesday afternoon, by the way. When we were talking about transatlantic stuff, and this is obviously not a commercial service, but he was talking about the Alcock and Brown Bimini flight. So no other aircraft that's flown the Atlantic non-stop has done it after having taken off from less than 400 meters of rough grass. Pretty damn impressive. The wind-driven generator which powered the radio failed shortly after takeoff. The intercom system was useless because a section of exhaust fell off. So it was so bloody noisy that you couldn't hear anything anyway. And the hot exhaust deflected and caused one of the cross-bracing wires to glow red hot during the flight, which must have provided a little bit of stress. Mid-Atlantic, they popped into cloud. The ASI failed, stuck at 90 knots, presumably due to icing, I should say. With limited instrumentation, they ended up spinning, recovered below 100 feet, and then just after they dropped out of the cloud base. Brown had to leave the cockpit, venture onto the wing, clear snow from an essential fuel gauge. The whole 16-hour flight, Alcock had to keep his hands on the controls. Well, that's normal, isn't it? I mean, you have to do that for an hour when I go flying. Actually, I don't anymore. When they coasted in over Ireland, they were at 250 feet, found some high ground, had enough fuel to complete their planned flight to London, but decided to land anyway. When they landed, they had 10 hours of fuel still remaining, which is pretty damn impressive.
Wow.
And then, although the initial part of the landing went fine, when they ended up in a little bit of a bog at the end, unfortunately, it didn't go so fine. So I know that's not a commercial thing, but in terms of kind of early days, that was amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was stunning. Not technically an airliner, though.
No, indeed. But I just thought those things were worth. You know, you need stuff like that before getting to your 747 or your Concorde. But
that's it. So in the comments, lots of you have got something to say. Who flashed up? It's Dave. Are you playing with the comments?
No,
that's me.
My hands are here. I don't get any comments.
So we have
it has control.
Dan Smith says, "As one and only Concorde, I rest my case." Adrian Arnold says, "VC10." David Eads. Who else is playing with the comments?
Who do you think?
David Eads has to be Concorde. Paul Fraser Benison. Who dares choose at Connie? Leah Fay says, "Must add Middlezoy to the list. I recommend it." Julian Treadwell says, "Constellation." Marcus Clark, another vote for Concorde. Pete Jeffcoat, I'm not sure you were listening, Pete. Beach Starship. That's not a Bernard the Wonder Badger objects to my choice, says, "Chefs with only 4-star hotels, I'm out." So Ian, the A380 is so ugly, that's why he didn't go for it. What we got? Actually, VC10s are pretty too. Andrew Caldecott says yes to the 747. Apparently, my flight was a bargain. Current BA first class is £9,452 one way.
Blimey!
Wow, that's quite punchy.
Yeah, there's a few Dave wins. Probably enough to make him a winner, maybe. John Park says, "Sorry, Dave, I back Ed." Everyone else is an also ran. Dave wins. Well, Mark, I'm not sure.
I think Ed would have probably had the best passenger experience. I mean, Concorde getting there in 2.5 hours is fine, or 3 hours, or whatever it was.
That's it. Catkin knows my secret motivation. Ed, you need to stop wearing high heels. Paul Cadell says, "I'm with Ed." Leofo says, "Dave wins with Johnny close behind." Well, actually, Johnny nearly double the travel distance because obviously, while he said, "I'm fast," he's actually nowhere near as fast. Jane says, "Ed's the most interesting." So there we go. I'm with Johnny on this one. But Michael Ward says, "Thanks, folks. Dave won." I think Dave may have won with the pointy jet.
Let's give Dave's one.
Dave doesn't win very often, so we'll give him his interesting jet.
Yeah, there you go. Right, we are running 8 minutes over, so we just need to quickly speed up. What's going on events-wise this weekend? Anything?
Events-wise, there's a couple of events. Just I put it down here as a spotters fair, which isn't very fair. It's the Heathrow Aircraft Enthusiast Fair at Kempton Park. That's on the 14th. And on the 15th is the Royal Aeronautical Society's General Aviation Design Conference. That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Johnny, tell people what they need to do if they want to see us.
Join the club, £7.50 per quarter. Do it. And we'll have a talk soon from Dave Barrell, who flies for the Wingwalkers Aero Superbatics at Renkham. He's going to talk through his incident at Bournemouth Airshow where he ditched in Poole Harbour. So if you're a club member, you'll get to see that. If you're not a club member, you won't. So join the club and you'll talk through all that great stuff, which is really interesting.
Yeah, and I don't think that's appeared. Don't think that if you'll need to be a club member to have seen that anywhere. I think.
Yeah, unless you're a member of BARDA. There was a recent BARDA presentation, but publicly, no, it'll be the first one. So thank you, Dave, for agreeing to do that. But yeah, he and Kirsten had a miraculous escape from the water. So yeah, we'll get that lined up and sorted out one evening.
Absolutely. Well, just a couple more things to say. The main one is thank you very much again to Sky Demon for sponsoring this. Next week, Dave will not be here. He's got an evening off, so we will have Packin will be stepping in. We'll be playing Dave, so come along and see her presenting career move on one notch. Or maybe several notches in one go. Who knows? I think that's about all I've got time for this week. We've got a special QSY for you next week. You'll enjoy this one because we'll be punishing Dave for not being here. So thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your flying if you're flying on Saturday, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Fly safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.